everyone, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com and today we're going to talk a little bit about Encased. So, the plot is that within the future, there's this strange, mysterious dome that's been discovered in the desert, and there's loads of interesting things inside that we want to study as a human race, so we go in, but unfortunately, rather than it being the solution to all of our problems, it actually ends up being this massive issue that potentially causes us all to die. So that's nice. Full disclosure, I did get a code for this from the developer, so thank you very much for that. I'm going to try and remain as objective as possible, as always. But what I'm going to talk about is a bit about the game itself, what goes on here, and to be honest, what I like about it, because I really enjoyed my time with it. So what exactly is it? It's an RPG style game in the same vein as things like Fallout 1, Fallout 2 and Fallout Tactics. That kind of top-down game where you're basically playing as your own character as you make your way through this world. There's a lot of stuff in regard to character interaction and creation, so you can create all different aspects to your character, your gender, your body type, your head type, everything like that, but you've also got a lot of different backstory in regard to where you specifically work. So there are wings that you could be potentially assigned to. So for example, the silver wing is management, the orange wing is rehabilitation. There's all these different wings that basically denote not only what your character will be received like by other players, but also the ways in which you can talk to them and the different abilities that you might have that you can use in combat but also in discussion. One of the things I really liked about this is that you can solve problems through so many different dialogue options, so many different interactions. So with me, I went for the silver wing because I thought, well, you know, I'm fantastic at talking and I'm sure you'd all agree that I'm definitely the kind of person that could easily lead you all. Please don't comment and say that's not true. But I went for the silver wing, which meant for a lot of the time I could really pull rank on other people in the game and say, well, actually, I'm one of the bosses, I'm one of the managers here, and you're going to do X for me. Or I could, for example, use my charisma to say, well, actually, I'll convince this person to do what I want, rather than go straight to bloodshed. And it was really cool. I really like the fact that there's so many different approaches and different things to see when it comes to the game. You've also got a huge amount of skills. It's very similar, like I say, to Fallout. And for example, the Outer Worlds is a recent example, where there's a lot of different skills you can use to basically boost your abilities. It reminds me a lot as well of Disco Elysium. So really cool game with a lot of promise here. There's so much you can change, and I think the great thing about that is that you can really tailor your character to suit your playstyle. I mean, personally, I know some people will find it boring, but I like to go through a game like this without killing anyone. I'm a huge fan of being able to have that choice, have that ability to say, well, actually, I'm going to convince these people to do what I say. I'm going to be the negotiator. I always thought that was cool. I always liked that idea of being like the negotiator that solves problems without violence and things like that. There is like psychic powers as well, and I think they're pretty cool. A lot, to be honest, is missing at the moment because the game is still in development, so there's quite a lot of powers I'd like to see expanded on later. So at the moment you can't use, for example, telekinesis to move things. I think that's a really cool power. I think it will really change the dynamic, but when it's out of early access and it's on the full release, I'm hoping that'll be brought in a little bit more closely. So you're going to see a bit of gameplay here. This is me in the first part of the game where you're coming into the place on this lift, and you're meeting other characters from different wings and you're getting to interact with them. And just looking at this screen, you can see straight away where the influences have come from, like I say, with Fallout and Fallout 1 and 2. But there's some really interesting stuff that's done here, and there's some real depth to character. Everyone has this unique voice, which is what I like to see, but also you don't have to just be static in regard to the way you treat people. So a really good example is here, a little bit of a spoiler here, but this character is sitting here, he's part of the Silver Wing as well, so I have the option to interact with him, and one of the things he says is that he's unable to register. So he can't register to come into the centre because he's forgotten, for example, like a key or one of his ID options. Later on, after I've registered him illegally, another character tells me that there was not meant to be another Silverwing employee. So it feels like there's definitely going to be repercussions in the future for the actions that I've taken, which I really like. I love that aspect. I play a lot of things like The Witcher 3 and games like that, and I like to see the actions that I've taken not just rewarded all the time, but also having this darker side, it's not always black and white side. I think that's really interesting. So I really enjoyed that. And there's so much to choose. Like here again, you're going to see my interactions with just one object, and there's so many different ways I can let this scenario play out. There's so many different options I can take to really turn this into my own interaction, my own playthrough. There's a lot of different stuff you can find. You're managing stuff like your food, your drink, and your skills and abilities, but also you're doing quite a lot in regard to your inventory management and your management of other people, your interactions with others. And it's just really cool. I'm going to be honest, I really enjoyed it. There are still some little issues around the edges, so fair enough, like I say, there's some powers I'd like to see expanded on. There's the occasional bug here and there, but it's nothing I can't stand for, to be honest. Really good. I love the storytelling here. Again, it does what you'd expect from a game that's very similar to Fallout 1 and 2, and it fills a niche that I don't think currently has many games in it. The combat itself and the interactions with the environment are pretty cool. I really like the graphical choices here as well. But you're basically going out and combating things like anomalies, you're making sure that you scan different objects to find out more information, so you can really gain an understanding of the world around you. And there is quite a lot of reading, but it's done in such a way that you feel like the environment is responsive to you. So there's like a relic here, I can scan that relic, find out more information about it, and then that in turn will feed me more about the underlying structure of the game and what's going on around me. And that is exactly how I like to be told story. Everywhere looks different, everything is fresh. There's a lot of different flavour text that just adds and builds upon that idea of this really expansive story. And it ties in really nicely. Now, talking about the combat, I really liked it, to be honest. Again, it's very similar to what we've seen before. I don't think it's doing anything revolutionary, but if you do something well, I'm happy with that. So what you can do here is you can pick your cover, the places you can hide, very similar to stuff like XCOM, like I say, in the old Fallout games in that regard. But you can also work with your environment. So see these barrels behind these holograms here? I can target them and I can shoot at them, or I can go specifically for the holograms themselves. This is like a training exercise you can see here. But it's just really interesting in the way it does things, because it takes something that works normally, and it does work. We've seen it work in practice. And it just makes it run nicely. It makes it fluid and fresh and enjoyable. And it does things with the formula that, although they might not be revolutionary, they're fun. I feel good about playing it. I'm not being punished by really harsh RNG here. It's reasonable in regard to the way in which I interact with the world. And I can do the things I think of. So if, for example, I know that a creature is weak against toxins, I can put myself in a place where that creature will have to travel through it. I can put them, move myself to strategically place enemies next to explosive barrels, next to electric, next to anomalies, next to things that could cause damage. And I can use things like my psi abilities to give myself room to breathe. I can really work towards an ideal scenario in regard to the combat and really tailor the experience to suit how I like to play. So with me here, I'm basically doing my best to stop that creature from having any turns, an infected I think it is. I'm stopping it from having any turns by utilising my abilities correctly, and it feels really good to be rewarded for thinking tactically. One of the things I hate about games like this is when you've got a game that the RNG is so harsh that even if you've got the best intentions, you just miss all the time, or your attacks whiff, or the damage you do doesn't work, or the enemy has an ability that basically overrides what you can do. But in this doesn't happen, and I really enjoyed my time with Encased, to be honest. Like I say, there are things I'd like to see more of. I really like the environments. I'd like to see them expanded on more though, so I'd like to see more in regard to helping you find where you need to go. Sometimes there are objectives, some people might like this, but there are objectives that don't seem incredibly clear. You need to go down this ladder, but we've got 4 different ladders and I'm not sure which one to go to. So maybe the option of waypoints would be great, just to make things a little bit clearer. And the only other thing is, at the moment, there's a couple of instabilities here and there, but I definitely say it's one to watch, and I'm going to be watching it on the lead up. So hopefully we'll see something really impressive when this goes into full release. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hopefully I'll catch you again very soon. Thank you and goodbye.